Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll begin in just another minute or two. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's presentation, our exclusive introduction of the latest Metasys release, Metasys 10. I know I speak for all of us at Johnson Controls when I say how excited we are to present this to you today, but we also know you're very busy during this time of year, so we're especially thankful to each of you for making time for us today. Before we dive into what's new with Metasys, I want to take a few minutes to introduce you to today's speakers and then just give a few quick housekeeping announcements. So I'm joined here by our three panelists today in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, by Chris Eichmann. Hello, Chris.
Good afternoon.
Leads our Global Controls Business Unit as Vice President and General Manager. In his previous role, Chris directed the control sales strategy, which included building out the indirect channel network and playing a key role in the launch of Metasys Building Control Systems for the light commercial market. Next, I'm joined by James Burke. Hello, James.
Good afternoon, James.
Our VP and GM of Building Automation Systems, and in his current role, he's responsible for growing the global Johnson Controls Building Automation System business. He oversees the product lifecycle with the development of comprehensive product roadmaps and execution of product strategies for the Metasys, Facility Explorer, BC Pro, and Metasys platforms. And last but certainly not least, I'm joined here in the room by Chris Lane. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Jane.
He is our Director of BAS Product Management, and during his long tenure at Johnson Controls, he's held several positions in application engineering, sales, and product management, and in his current role, leads a team of product managers responsible for the Metasys product line. My name is Jane Walmsley. I'm a Product Marketing Manager responsible for the Johnson Controls BAS portfolio, and I will be moderating today's presentation. Today's agenda is really quite simple. Chris Eichmann will spend some time talking through how we've designed Metasys to address changing market demands. And then Chris and James Burke will walk you through what's new with Metasys at Release 10, including hardware advancements like our market-leading Ethernet ring topology solution and a new modern industrial design, as well as software enhancements that include new and improved integrations with non-HVAC systems, a new application programming interface, and enhancements to our world-class Metasys interface. We'll leave about 10 minutes for Q&A at the end, so please submit your questions at any point during today's presentation using either the chat or the questions panel on your GoToWebinar window. And just as a reminder, today's presentation is being recorded, so we'll make it, a copy of the presentation, available shortly after the live event that you can review further or share with your colleagues who may not have been able to join us today. We'll also address any questions that we may not have had time to address at the end in a post-webinar FAQ document. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Chris Eichmann.
Thanks, Jane. Metasys has been our flagship building automation system for over 25 years now, with a proven history of handling even the most complex building management needs. And just like how technology demands in the consumer space have changed over the last quarter century, we've also seen technology demands in the commercial space change. So think of the iPhone that first debuted in June of 2007 versus what we see in the market today. So in 2013, we started a multi-year research initiative to rethink what a building automation system and Metasys should provide building operators. And we started hearing the same things over and over again, regardless of building size or vertical market. Our customers needed to do more with less. They have faced shrinking budgets and shrinking staffs. They needed a system that was easy to use and didn't require hours and hours of learning. They wanted systems that were mobile optimized, so they didn't have to be tied to a workstation. They wanted a system that addressed the growing cybersecurity needs and to provide their occupants safe and comfortable building environments. They were starting to see multiple systems, more than just HVAC systems, converge on the same networks. And just like always, they needed to trust that their system will be reliable and maximize building operations, save them time and money, help them identify issues before they become huge, costly problems. That led to the release of Metasys 7 in early 2015. We introduced our world-class user interface, which leverages space-based navigation to show clear and simple relationships between spaces and the equipment that serves them, allows building operators to work much more efficiently, and we also introduced adoption of IT security best practices. In 2016, we released Metasys 8, which among the many improvements introduced industry-leading alarm management. In January of 2017, Metasys 8.1 brought new photorealistic graphics for improved visualization. In July of 2017, we introduced Metasys 9, which brought IP-enabled equipment controllers. This brings us to Metasys 10, releasing now. In Metasys 10, we focused on 4 areas, and I'll pass it off to Chris Lane to talk about those.
Great, thanks, Chris. So today, I'll be sharing with you what I'm really excited about. My team's been working on this for over a year, so we're just thrilled to finally being able to share some of the features and benefits coming out with Release 10, including things like the Ethernet ring topology solution, our new industrial design for our controller hardware, some new and improved integration capabilities that allow some building-wide system integration, and then finally, I'll demo some of the new enhancements to our intuitively designed Metasys user interface. So, starting with what's new with the Metasys hardware at Release 10. So I want to start with this simplified diagram of Metasys, which shows how the Metasys control components are typically networked together to share data and coordinate control with each other. At the bottom of the diagram, you'll see our equipment controllers, and you'll see that they're networked together in a daisy chain fashion using a cabling technology called BACnet MSTP, which is a 3-wire twisted pair cabling technology, and it's a kind of a medium bandwidth technology that's mostly unique to the building automation system industry. And the higher level components like the network engine and the application and data server, and then the client browsers that are connected into the system are usually networked together using BACnet IP or other IP-based protocols, leveraging an Ethernet cabling infrastructure like Cat6. Ethernet is a very familiar networking cabling and is because it's ubiquity in the IT industry. You'll see lots of LANs, internal LANs set up with personal computers, laptops, printers, and telephones, leveraging the Ethernet network within a building. At Release 9, as Chris mentioned, back in 2017, we introduced new models of Metasys equipment controllers that can be networked up to the network engine using BACnet IP, again, which leverages Ethernet as its cabling technology. It's a much higher bandwidth cabling infrastructure, and it's becoming very popular with building owners who want to future-proof their investments into the wiring used to network these control components together. And at Release 9, our IP controllers supported being networked together using a star topology, shown here, where you home run the Cat6 cabling from each controller to a switch port. And then we also supported at Release 9 a daisy chain topology, where the Ethernet cabling is run from controller to controller and up to the switch port and only uses one switch port. So each of these two topologies has its own associated pros and cons. Star topology is much more resilient to a cable failure, so that if like a single cable failed between a switch and a controller would break, the network engine could still communicate with the downstream controllers. The problem with star topology is that it's more expensive from an installation cost perspective. It requires more ports on the switch and more length of cabling as the Ethernet's home run from the controller to the switch. Now daisy chain topology is less expensive to install because the cabling is daisy chained from one controller to another, and it also requires significantly fewer switch ports. The problem with daisy chaining is that it's not as resilient to a cable failure or an offline controller as the star topology. If a controller went offline or if a cable were to break, the communication between the engine and that failed node and all the downstream nodes would fail as well, and communication would be lost. So we've addressed that in Release 10 by offering a third topology option, which is the ring topology. Ring topology provides kind of a happy medium between your installed cost and network resiliency. Ring doesn't require as many ports on the switch or as much Cat6 Ethernet cabling because as star topology, but also provides the resiliency in case a cable breaks or if a controller goes offline, because with the ring topology, there are two pathways to each controller. And the redundancy of the MRP system will allow the communication to occur in the event that one node might fail.
So one of the important considerations around the ring typology is it really enabled our channel partners to have a more successful, lower cost, and higher redundant solution when they look at implementing on a project. One of the critically important considerations that we had was partnering with an IT company and provider that had the expertise from a switch gear as well as a security functionality. And so that's why, from a Cisco partnership standpoint, we're thrilled at the expertise that they bring, not only from a development standpoint, but also from an implementation standpoint as we go out and talk to customers.
Yes, and this is more than just, it is a firmware upgrade to our existing IP controllers, but it's much more than that. It truly is a fully integrated solution where we've modified our system configuration tool to allow it to jumpstart the configuration of the Cisco switch. And we're also providing our channel partners with multiple ways of purchasing and obtaining support for the Cisco switches and the networking gear. We feel that at Release 10, our IP solution, with its three supported networking technology, makes an IP-based building automation system an affordable reality that only Johnson Controls can deliver. Also at Release 10, we are introducing some refreshed versions of our hardware components, leveraging a brand new industrial design that we feel is more modern in appearance, gives off a much higher quality perspective and aesthetic, and underneath the covers is much more powerful than our previous generation of controllers. And all of our future components will leverage these same characteristics to make it noticeable for our customers that these are all part of a new generation of Metasys. And I'll start by showing you the new design for what is normally probably the more visible component found in buildings, which are the room sensors. Shown here are the brand new room sensors with our new packaging design. The packaging that I've shown here is the one that has the black enclosure, and we'll also provide these with an option to have them in an off-white as well to match your variety of customer buildings' interior decor. Our new sensor design leverages a capacitive touchscreen interface with a variety of occupant interaction capabilities, so that eliminates the bulky knobs or the switches or dials, or in the case of our older Metastats, the plastic doors. In addition, we can sense temperature, occupancy, carbon dioxide, and humidity all in one package, and we call that our 4-in-1 sensor. So for applications that require all four sensing inputs, we won't need to take up wall space or muddy up the appearance of your walls, or our customers' walls, with 2, 3, or 4 individually mounted sensors, just the one. And similar to the sensors, we're also modernizing our TEC 3000 network thermostat. These devices are very similar to sensors, but they're also built-in controllers, perfect for controlling packaged HVAC equipment like rooftop units and heat pumps. Our new TEC 3000 incorporates the same new packaging aesthetics as what I just described with the sensors. And these new TEC 3000s also feature a much higher resolution and color touchscreen display, which is an improvement over our current model, which is a grayscale only display. Color provides a much higher level of quality appearance on behalf of the operator, and it also provides an opportunity for us to focus visual attention on certain information or status points right on the display.
So one of the important considerations when we looked at the displays were to have a consistent and uniform look across the building space as the occupants would see it. And so we really thought it was foundational that we came out with a refreshed platform that not only brought our sensors up to the latest and greatest from a styling, but also had a consistency across the product portfolio so that from a visibility standpoint, it was uniform within the Johnson Controls building.
And we're also applying the same design concepts to our equipment controllers. You know, even though these types of controllers are typically hidden within the building, located either in control panels or above ceiling tiles mounted on VAV boxes, we felt it was important to also apply, as James mentioned, the same visual design concepts to these devices to make sure that our customers and our channel partners and our installers could identify them as being part of the same family of modern, new generation of Metasys. So in addition to enhancing their aesthetics, we've also incorporated some features to make these devices easier to install and service. We really took a look at the details of every interface that an installer or a service tech or a field tech would be interacting with on the physical device. So the wiring interfaces, we've gone to all of them being removable screw terminals. The address switch, which used to be a binary dip switch, we've chosen to use a rotary switch that now presents the identifier, the ID or the address of the controller in decimal, so that installers don't have to convert binary numbers to decimal numbers. We've also made some significant improvements underneath the hood, so to speak, as well. All of our new controller designs feature a much faster microprocessor with expanded memory that allows them to handle more sophisticated control applications and also provides a lot more room for future upgrading as well. We expect these to have a very long operational life, so we want to make sure that we've got plenty of rooms for future upgrades as well. All of our equipment controllers, the new generation, will all feature an embedded real-time clock that supports onboard scheduling, alarming, and trending, and that makes them more resilient to communication issues. So kind of following the theme of why we chose the MRP Ring Manager technology to support resiliency in network cabling, we're also improving the software to provide software resiliency, so that in case a communication error might occur between the engine and the controller, for example, if there is a occupancy transition that gets missed, the onboard schedule will keep it running in the appropriate occupancy mode, or they'll keep tracking the trends. Those features are all handled on board, and they'll simply resync themselves to the engine once the communication's been reestablished. You know, coming this summer, we're going to be introducing a brand new family of Metasys network engines as well. It'll share the same design approach, the same aesthetics, increased memory and horsepower. And the reason I'm giving you kind of a sneak peek of that is because at this release, at 10, we are making some improvements to our existing engines to prepare them as we transition to the newer design. Going forward, starting at release 10, our underlying operating system for all of our network engines will be Linux. And that will provide us with an open source operating system that has lots of available developer support. And we chose Linux because it affords us the opportunity and more control over the application enhancements and the cybersecurity improvements that we plan to incorporate into our Metasys network engines. And speaking of cybersecurity, at every release of Metasys, we are regularly improving our software to address cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and release 10 is no different. At release 10, we're incorporating an encryption technology that secures the communications that occur between our network engines and our application data servers, preventing bad actors from exploiting building automation system data in some unknown or nefarious way. So let's switch gears a bit and talk about some of the software enhancements that we're making with Release 10, starting with how Metasys can now integrate information from non-HVAC building-wide systems, such as access control, video management systems, fire notification, and lighting systems.
So you may be asking yourself, what's really changed with integrations? Integrations have been around for a long time, and really what we've been focused on and continue to focus on is simplifying the workflow and the complexity of doing integrations. And so one of the terms that we use internally is, how do we take custom integrations and make them standard? So really we truly believe that as an industry, we've advanced technology around being able to connect buildings greater than ever before, but there remains a significant opportunity to continue to drive the cost and complexity out of this. And so when we looked at our own building solutions within the combined Johnson Controls and Tyco organization, we focused on how do we simplify the integrations of the products and platforms that we have internally, as well as we went out into the marketplace and partnered with lighting companies such as Molex and Cree to help develop, co-develop, and jointly develop standard integrations of their lighting solutions into a Metasys BAS solution. And so fundamentally, we truly believe that the use cases and the value of a smart building is significant, and it represents a great opportunity. But only when we reduce the cost and complexity of those integrations will we truly be able to recognize and realize. And so this is the start of what will be a continued trend around integrating disparate systems into a Metasys system. But we're very excited to advance the integration capability that we have at this day.
Thanks, James. And this is where I think our merger with Tyco, the Johnson Controls merger with Tyco, has really paid off for our customers, since it allows us to deliver better, more standardized, and more affordable integrations to really deliver smart building solutions. So I feel the best way to visually describe the power and the value of our new integrations is with this screen capture shown here of our Metasys user interface that shows an example of how disparate systems can be integrated and visualized within Metasys. In this example, I'm showing a high school chemistry lab, and I'll show this in a real-time demo a little bit later. But with our new and enhanced integrations, a truly unified operator interface can be achieved, consisting of points sourced from not only the HVAC system, but also the fire notification system, the access control system, and the lighting control system. So your symbols, your command dialog boxes, the colors used to represent status are consistently applied across all of these disparate systems, unifying the experience on behalf of the operator. I'm going to highlight each integration with a bit more detail, starting with our Simplex fire system integration. At Release 10, we've simplified this integration, which is a BACnet integration to Metasys. We've improved our tools, basically, to streamline the integration workflow, turning what was used to be several hours to potentially even days of configuration time into minutes or hours. By focusing on integrating only the kinds of information that would be useful and usable by a facility manager. In the example I'm showing here of the Metasys UI, the smoke detectors and pull stations are visualized where they are actually located in that space, and the status boxes indicate that they're operating normally. Or they could be showing that they are in need of maintenance attention, for example, if the smoke heads are dirty. Also at Release 10, we've created a new Metasys integration driver that is used to integrate our own Tyco Secure access control and Victor video management systems. So by integrating access control data into Metasys, we can automate building system operations based on access control badging events. So for example, you can incorporate a badging event into an overall building-wide system occupancy strategy, such that when an occupant leaves the building for the day and swipes his badge out and exits the building, not only is that exit event recorded in the security system, but it's shared with Metasys so that the person's office temperature controls could be set back to an energy-saving, unoccupied temperature set point. The office lights that were providing light in his area could be turned off to save energy. Those are the types of operational features that can be accomplished by integrating access control with HVAC. We can also integrate video camera health and status and analytics data into Metasys, and those can also be used in your occupancy strategies, or they can be used to trigger other automation and energy savings events as well. We've also, at Release 10, partnered with two leading lighting solution manufacturers, Cree and Molex, and we worked with them on their own BACnet integrations to simplify how they integrate their solutions into Metasys. We leveraged our expert knowledge of BACnet and of building automation systems to help these vendors improve their implementation of BACnet, so that instead of serving up individual BACnet points per lamp, they now organize their lighting data as lighting zones or groups and represent those as virtual BACnet devices, so they don't overwhelm Metasys or even other third-party building automation systems with loads of unorganized data. And once integrated, Metasys can then be used to automate turning the lights on and off. It can coordinate the lighting with the HVAC operation, or it can be used to adjust lighting levels or lighting schemes based on occupant preferences or programmable control strategies. And these points can also be included in the Metasys user interface so that an operator can manually command them on and off as well. You know, and another nice thing about the integration of these lighting systems with Metasys is both Cree and Molex offer lighting fixtures that have integrated sensors built right into the fixtures for sensing temperature or humidity or light level or air quality. And that sensor data can then be integrated into Metasys, and that could potentially provide a significant installed cost savings by avoiding having to mount separate sensors just for the HVAC system.
So one of the early customer success stories that we have is down at Georgia Pacific. And this is really an example of working closely with one of our partners in Molex and developing a solution that solved some customer issues and customer problems and really allowed us to future-proof the technology to enable Georgia Pacific. And what we fundamentally believe is that the building space is becoming more interconnected. Partnering with independent organizations and companies is going to be becoming increasingly more important. And so lighting is a perfect example of a solution in which we feel foundationally that we should partner with the leading experts in the industry and develop truly world-class buildings for our customers. And Georgia Pacific is just one such early example that we have.
So we've just discussed how at Release 10 we've improved the ways that devices and information can be integrated into Metasys, but also at Release 10, we're also introducing new and improved ways that Metasys information can be extracted and shared to and with other applications. At Release 10, we're introducing a telehealth API or application programming interface for Metasys. Telehealth is a third-party application that provides healthcare patients with an app for them to use on their phone or tablet, and it allows them to personally control the various aspects of their comfort level within their patient room. And when integrated with Metasys, the telehealth app could enable, for example, control over the room temperature set points, or the ventilation, or the lights, or the window blinds, those types of other integrated control components. Also at Release 10, we're releasing a new data extraction API. And what this does is it allows applications to gain access to Metasys historical data. That includes time-stamped trended data, alarms, and audits, all tagged with our spaces and equipment metadata, which is really important to provide context over that data. And this API would be particularly useful for those facilities personnel who prefer very high-end or powerful data analysis and visualization tools, like, for example, Power BI or Tableau. It allows them to perform very sophisticated analysis based on Metasys trended data. Our new API is a RESTful API, and this provides a very cyber-secure, IT-friendly way of getting data out of Metasys. And then the last part of the scope of Metasys Release 10 is some of the improvements that we've made to the Metasys user interface. And the best way to demonstrate the value of those features is to go out and actually demonstrate them in a live sales demo. So right now, I am going to log into our Metasys sales demo, which we use to demonstrate the features of our Metasys user interface. Shown here is the main dashboard of the Metasys user interface, and I want to cover some of the components that have been delivered in previous releases to give you an idea of the context of the new enhancements. So the main power of the Metasys user interface is in the way that we use the spaces and equipment definitions, or tags, to improve the usability of finding, learning, and acting on information within Metasys. So let's start by showing you how the navigation sidebar located on the left here is not organized by, for example, if I click on the network node, it's not organized by, say, these Metasys component names, like the server name, the engine name, the field bus, the controller name, the point, or the object name. Instead, it's organized, when I click on the spaces icon there, it's organized by the spaces hierarchy, or how the actual building floor plan is laid out. And I've got two examples here. I'm going to be focusing today mainly on the school district demo that we've created. This is an example of an entire school district, and here is one school. So if I click on the JCI High School, you can see that it's organized by the floor, and if I drill into a floor, it shows the various rooms within that floor. So if you are an operator who is not familiar with Metasys component naming, but are familiar with the way that your building is laid out, it's very easy to find your way to the appropriate information in Metasys because it's tagged with the appropriate space relation and equipment relation. We can also use a search bar to quickly jump to the name of a space or the name of equipment. So it's very easy and intuitive for an operator to find information. And the reason I pointed that out is, even though we've had that in Metasys user interface for since release 7, we've exploited those spaces and equipment tagging definitions in other uses as well. And I'm going to show you that right now. By going into our advanced search and reporting capability, phase 1 of this was originally released at Metasys 9, so that was about a year and a half ago. And what this does is it allows our operators, our customers' operators, to very quickly create tables of similar data showing the real-time values. So for an operator perspective, they can have the power of analyzing large amounts of data without doing a whole lot of programming or configuration, or maybe calling the branch to help them create this report. Instead, the power of reporting is at their fingertips. I'm going to show you an example of how easy it is to create a report. So I'm using filters to choose what kind of data appears in that table. So right here, under the Spaces and Equipment dialog, I'm going to type in floor 1. And let's pick floor 1 of that high school. And then I'm going to select all the chilled beams. And then under those chilled beams, I want to see all of the I want to compare all of the chilled beam zone temperatures and zone temperature set points for those chilled beams within floor 1. So simply by selecting those filters and clicking on the search button, you'll see that a table very quickly appears showing the requested information, showing the point name, the Metasys reference number, which if you're a very savvy operator, might be a little popcorn trail that allows you back to your old way of thinking. The value of the point. If it's in a non-normal status, there'll be a color code that indicates that it's maybe an override or above a limit or out of service. In this case, it's in a low warning state. It also shows you, interestingly enough, the space and equipment that is being impacted by that zone temperature data point. So if I wanted to, at this point, link to the source of this zone temperature point that's in low warning, I could link to, well, it's in the library, and the piece of equipment is chill beam number 102. I can from here quickly link to those specific spaces or that equipment dashboard and do some deeper investigation on what's wrong with that particular point. What I want to show you, though, that we released at release 10 here is if I select some writable points and maybe some non-writable points, well, let's select them all. All the zone temperatures and all the zone set points, and I go up to my action button, and I go to create report. I can now generate this report that shows either activity, which is a combination of of alarm activity and audit activity, or I can just select an alarm report or an audit report, which are user transactions, or historical trended data. Those are the four types of reports that I can simply select and create here. Let's select a trend report, and I can immediately download that report. Or what's new at Metasys Release 10 is the ability to schedule these reports to automatically occur on a regular repeating cadence. So I've got the choice of selecting every day or every week or every month or every year, so that our operators can set up these reports and say maybe do a daily report on the points that I've just selected for a certain period of time and have them downloaded or have them emailed to a certain email distribution list. And then I can name the report. This is going to be my daily trend report for floor 1, and I'll create that scheduled report. You'll see it's very simple to create reports that can occur immediately or even be scheduled. And then if I want to repeat and use that report again under the Reports tab, this is a list of all of the reports that have been created for this particular instance of Metasys. And then I can enable that report or delete that report, edit it, change the filter criteria, or I can, if I'm done with that report and I want to delete it, I can do that as well. Let's go back to the Advanced Search and Reporting. The other thing that we've added at Release 10, which is a very handy thing for our operators, is the ability to bulk modify attributes of objects. You might be wondering, well, what is an object attribute? Well, in our case, those would define some interesting things like alarm limits. Let's take a look at the zone temperature points. Let's look at the alarm extensions. Let's search on those. And from this screen, I could theoretically modify all of the high and low alarm limits for all of the points, all of the zone temperature points that I filtered on for this particular floor. So I've just saved maybe dozens to maybe hundreds of mouse clicks by performing a bulk modify of those alarm limits simply by using the power of our spaces and equipment definitions and of our new Advanced Search and Reporting feature.
And Chris, this really underscores the simplicity that we're putting into the user experience so that our operators can manage their own data simplistically and understand, so that they're not relying on a technician or a high-skilled, high-level control technician to be able to manipulate the data that's in any BAS system. And so really it's been a core tenet of what we've been trying to do around the user experience is to truly simplify it. And those are just a couple great examples.
Right. And the Advanced Search and Reporting enhancements that we've made is really kind of the key feature from a user experience perspective that we've added at Release 10. But we've also added some other things that have resulted as a result of our interviews, over-the-shoulder interviews of facility operators, watching them how they use Metasys, and seeing how we could maybe eliminate mouse clicks or reduce some of their frustrations. One of the areas is with the command priority. So let's go to an air handler and pick a commandable point. Like we're going to pick the discharge air temperature set point for the air handler that's feeding the conditioned air to floor 1. I'm going to click on that point and try to command it. And you'll see under the command dialog box, there's several different options, an adjust, an override, and then some releases, and a change default value. And you might be asking yourselves, and I know our operators have often asked themselves, well, what is the difference between an adjust and an override? And the difference is priority, basically. So I'm going to issue an override at that point to 56, and I'm going to make it only a temporary override because I'm sure I'm going to forget to release it. And I want the system to automatically release it for me. And I know that there's going to be someone else probably going to be in here, so I want to leave a note so that they understand that I made this override for the media demo. And I'm going to click on Save. And then I'll go back into this point and I'll show you what is actually occurring and what changes we made that brings that into focus. The temporary override and the annotation were features that we also implemented as a result of some of our user feedback. They wanted ways that would help them collaborate with other users of Metasys. So by having a temporary override feature, again, so if they might forget to release it, it'll release it automatically for them after the timer expires. And then you can also leave that note in case there are multiple operators interfacing with the same system, so that you can collaborate with them on your adjustments and commands. So I went back into the commanding dialog, and under this priority array, this is what's new at release 10. It now shows you exactly what priority was given to that command that I gave. It's an operator override, and this is a BACnet standard. BACnet standardized on how multiple different commands could be handled using different priorities. And there's a 16 array priority command structure that BACnet defines. And by exposing this, now our operators have that much more information at their fingertips to know why a command is operating the way it is. So if I were to initiate an adjust, that's going to go in at a lower priority and is not going to impact it because there's already an operator override issued at a higher priority. And then finally, the last feature I want to demonstrate is with our trend viewer. So our trend is right now got a few points listed on it. I can't get to the, I'm going to unselect some and just show discharge air temperature. So you'll see that our trend widget is scaled to show the temperature for this discharge air temperature. And if I wanted to add a discharge air pressure, and then maybe the effective occupancy, I can do that as well. Now those have three completely different units of measure, and they can all appear on the same chart, showing you the context of the discharge air temperature, the pressure, and then a multi-state variable, all within the same chart. This allows our operators with a much better visual representation of various different types of data found within Metasys.
All right. Thanks for the demo, Chris. I think we'll hand it back over to Chris Eichmann for a few closing remarks, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Thanks, Jane. So why does Metasys 10 matter? We're moving to a new generation of Metasys and starting with foundational elements. Once that foundation is set, we'll layer on step change differences in building automation capabilities. And this is being done intentionally at an appropriate pace to bring our current customers forward in a cost-effective way. We're planning to hit a cadence of major new releases every spring.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much to all of our panelists, and thank you again for those who who joined us today. Just a reminder that today's presentation will be recorded, And if you are at all interested in seeing live and in person what our panelists just went over, all of these, including the software, the new integration, the new equipment controllers, the new end devices with the thermostat and the 4-in-1 sensors, are all going to be prominently featured on our Metasys exhibit at AHR January 14th through the 16th. Metasys is in booth 1627. Or, of course, if you have any questions, you can work with our media partner, Scott Clark, at Godfrey, and his email address is listed there on the screen. So I did see a couple of questions come through during the presentations. We'll make sure to get those addressed. I certainly invite, in our last 15 minutes here, if you have any other questions, to submit those in the last 15 minutes that we have here. Or, of course, as I mentioned, feel free to reach out to Scott with any questions you might have directly. So I think this is really appropriate for any of our panelists. Maybe James or Chris Lane, you want to take this one. But you know, when we think about compliancy, particularly with you know, our BACnet standards, our ASHRAE standards. So ASHRAE 90.1, which is around commissioning required for the International Energy Conservation Code, or the IEC. You know, and LEED ratings, as another example, how do the integrations with lighting, for example, help engineers and commissioning professionals when specifying Metasys or BAS for that matter?
I think the integrations just provide that much more data and that much more context for our channel partners to deliver energy-saving solutions via programming or installation and commissioning mechanisms that can be used in energy-saving strategies that might be compliant to either a LEED standard or an ASHRAE standard.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is we didn't highlight it in this presentation because it gets a little wonky and technical, but there was great engineering effort that went into this release around tools and workflow and simplification that our channel partners would have. And so really when I think about integrations and I think about how do we connect disparate systems, whether it's via ASHRAE compliance or not, it's really around how do we make our channel partners more effective and quicker so that we can reduce the complexity so that they can achieve those outcomes.
Okay.
And then a reporting feature could be used to provide evidence of any type of documented energy savings that's been recorded within Metasys.
Okay, great. You know, we commonly get this question, so I'll just ask it right after that. And this is appropriate for any of our panelists. Is Metasys 10 available to order right now? I know there's been some early buzz on social media and some other things, but just to clarify, I want to make sure that we are letting everyone know now that Metasys, yes, is officially available to order, and actually it was available to start shipping just earlier this week. So our customers can place orders anytime they're ready. And this is probably a question for either Chris Eichmann or James. When Chris Lane was talking through the Ethernet ring topology solution, why did we partner with Cisco on that solution?
I think fundamentally, when we look at how do we deploy technology, we always start with, do we build it or do we partner? And this was a great example of as IT and OT become more standard within our industry, and we looked at the capabilities and expertise that we have today versus where we want to be tomorrow, it was a no-brainer to partner with an industry-leading technology partner like Cisco. And so what they brought from a IT and OT expertise, but then also being able to optimize our system and our solution to ride on the ring typology was truly a mutual benefit to our organization. And so part of it was development, but then also a big part of it will also be deployment. And so when we get into projects and we have branches or channel partners that are deploying IP technology, having a partner with the distribution not only in North America but also globally, that footprint allows us access to expertise both from a network topology standpoint as well as a cybersecurity standpoint. So truly one of those where when we scanned the partners out there, it really became a no-brainer of who we wanted to partner with, and we couldn't be more excited.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is probably a question for Chris Lane. So, and we do get this question pretty frequently. Chris, when you were giving the demonstration of the Metasys user interface, you touched a little bit on how it's organized, and you mentioned earlier that it was mobile optimized. What web interface do you use to access the Metasys UI, and do you need any sort of app or special software to do so?
Well, actually, that's the nice thing about our Metasys user interface is that it supports just a standard browser. So whether you're using Chrome or Firefox or a Safari browser on your phone, the screens will automatically resize themselves. The buttons are nice and large, accommodating large fingers. You don't have to pinch and zoom. You don't need to download an app from iTunes, just a standard browser, and it's automatically sized for you. It's a really neat experience, and it's one that our operators really value.
Okay, great, thank you. That actually wraps up all the questions that we received during today's event. Once again, really want to thank all of our great media folks for joining us today. Again, we know how busy it is this year for you, especially with the holidays. We appreciate you making the time. We're very excited to show Metasys 10 to you. And again, if you're going to be at AHR or ASHRAE, we definitely invite you to come check this out firsthand while you're at the booth. And if, of course, you think of any other questions, maybe you take a look at the recording that we send out later and you have any additional questions for us, feel free to funnel those right directly to Scott Clark. Thank you to the presenters today.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
Thanks.